This video is brought to you by Epica Immigration, a leading immigration consultancy firm based in Singapore. If you need assistance with your permanent residency and citizenship applications, our contact details are provided on this slide. Feel free to reach out to us if you're interested. Also, please note that any advice given in this video should be considered as general guidelines only. For more in-depth details and personalized assistance, we encourage you to contact us at Epica Immigration directly. In this presentation, I am going to share some insights into the immigration services industry, focusing specifically on PR and citizenship services in Singapore. As I have highlighted, if you are a customer looking to engage these services, it's important to do your homework and choose a reputable provider. On the other hand, if you are considering becoming a service provider because you think it is an easy business to get into, I will provide some practical insights to show you the reality of the industry. On this slide, I'm going to present some data. First, we went to the BizFile website and searched for all businesses with the word immigration in their name. We found around 237 businesses, out of which about 191 are structured as companies or corporations. This means that over the years, these entities were created to provide immigration services in Singapore. Next, we decided to focus on companies established in the last 7 years. We found that other business types like sole proprietorships and partnerships were quite small, with the majority being corporate structures. We limited our focus to the past 7 years because if an immigration company was incorporated 20 years ago, it might have been providing different services, as immigration services were not as prevalent back then. The next question we asked was, out of all these companies, how many are providing immigration services for PR and citizenship in Singapore, and how many are offering outbound immigration services to countries like Australia, Canada, and New Zealand? Additionally, some companies were involved in educational immigration, helping students go to the UK, USA, and other countries for education purposes. To find out, we had one of our employees spend a few days going through each record of these companies to determine the nature of their services. We ignored all the companies that focus on outbound immigration and only considered those that provide PR and citizenship services. Over the last 7 years, that number came to 142. Here is the summary of the 142 companies we reviewed. Out of these, only 12 are currently active. The majority of the rest are either inactive or have already been struck off. Remember, this data covers only the last 7 years. Now, let's move on to the next slide to understand what is happening here. What often happens is that many PRs or citizens of Singapore see this as an easy business opportunity and register a business entity. However, in most cases, the business never takes off. It's only registered, often at their home address. After registration, they might try to run the business for a while and even get a few customers. But then, nothing substantial happens. As a result, most of these businesses end up being inactive, as highlighted here. Some of them eventually get closed when the owners realize they aren't going to do anything further with the company. Now let's talk about the second category. Here the person registers the business and actually starts operating. They might rent a service office, obtain a telephone line, set up a basic website, and begin the business. However, what usually happens is that the business doesn't grow beyond a certain point. They might get a few customers each month for a while, but eventually the business stops because it is not making money. This second category also falls under the inactive and struck-off companies. When the business stops, the owner might either leave the company in an inactive state or strike it off altogether. The next question is about the investment made in these companies. Since they were operational at some point, the investment can vary significantly. Depending on the level of operations and the owner's reasons, the amount spent can range from $20,000 to as much as $200,000. Some of these businesses, like at least one company shown here, ended up facing legal problems and were subsequently wound up through a liquidation procedure in Singapore. While this is relatively rare, it happens to about 1 to 2% of the companies. In the case of this specific company, they were unable to pay their outstanding debts, which led to a compulsory winding-up procedure initiated by creditors. So, why do so many companies fail in this sector? Rather than explaining point by point, let me share a true story of a large player in this industry that has now closed down. This company was probably the second or third largest player in the sector and was registered around 8 to 10 years ago. When they first registered, there was very little competition, and they received a lot of inquiries and leads. Every day, they would typically get 20 to 30 leads without doing much advertising on Google, which is a huge number. This continued for 2 or 3 years, and sometimes the number of leads was even higher than 30. As a result, the company grew very fast and made a lot of money. At one point, they had 30 salespeople on their payroll, with a separate delivery team. However, as the market became aware of this industry and its potential returns, many new players entered the market. This company, which was selling PR packages for around $3,500, started facing competition from others offering the same service for $2,800. Naturally, their leads began to dry up. They also lowered their price to $2,800, but by that time, other companies were offering the service for $2,200. This price war continued for quite some time, and eventually, this large player had to close down as other players took over. Throughout this process, they likely accumulated a lot of debt, which they were unable to pay, and this might have caused additional problems for them. So, what does this mean for you if you're looking to engage a consultancy? It's important to understand that many of these consultancies you see around are small mom-and-pop shops. They could be run by someone who's lost their job or someone with a business idea without necessarily having a background in this sector. Therefore, it's crucial to do thorough research before deciding which consultant to engage with. You want to ensure they have the expertise and credibility to handle your needs effectively. If you are planning to start an immigration business, one key thing to understand is that there's intense competition and a high failure rate in this business. This is mainly because there are no entry barriers. Anyone who is a Singapore PR or citizen can think they're qualified to advise others on these matters and start the business with minimal investment. The problem arises because of the continuous influx of new entrants. It becomes challenging to establish your own identity, brand, and niche in such a crowded field. Unless you manage these aspects effectively, chances are you'll experience difficulties within a few months and may eventually have to shut down. Therefore, it's crucial to be cautious with your investment and make strategic decisions wisely from the start. In summary, whether you're a customer or a service provider, it's crucial to be careful and make wise decisions at every step.